Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to talk about study plan. In the previous video we already talked in detail about how to write personal statement and what are the points that we need to keep in mind. And in this video we'll be dealing with study plan in the same way we did with personal statement. If you see the study plan form, there are three different sections there, right? First we start with the language one and then we move on to the study plan and then the future plan. So we'll be talking about each one of them separately. So let's get into it. The first thing that's there in the study plan, the first section that you need to cover is the language plan, where you have to talk about how you will utilize the 1 year language training. Every GKS scholar has to undergo the 1 year Korean language training. You are only abstained from doing that if you already have a topic 5 or topic 6 level, the advanced levels, before coming to Korea. Otherwise, you have to undergo that training. So in that section, you need to talk about the skills that you will gain during the language training. And like for example, there are a lot of students who come here who have prior knowledge of Korean, right? Now if you have prior knowledge of Korean, there must be some sections where you are pretty weak. For example, people who have good communication skills because they have learned Korean in a very natural way, they might lacking in the writing section or in the writing domain. So you can mention that you would love to improve that part of your language skills. At the same time, people who are lacking in the speaking section or the communication section or the communication domain, you should mention that you would like to improve in that area. And then there are a lot of scholars who come here who have no prior knowledge of the Korean language, so they start from the beginning. So they can just like on a whole, like on an umbrella basis, they can just mention that we'll start and then we'll move from beginner to intermediate to advanced, and we'll try to improve all the skills and relate it with the major. Now how you will relate it with the major is that there are a lot of majors and some of them are in Korean, some of them are in English. So if your major is in Korean, obviously you need a good amount of Korean language, right? So first you can mention that your university requires this certain level of Korean proficiency, but you are aiming to go higher than that because you plan to do internships here, you plan to do maybe work here, a lot of other reasons which are unique to you, to make it sound more personal and to make it sound more authentic. If you just say that I will try my best and I will do the hard work, it's just not you. It's everyone's gonna mention that. So you need to make it more about you and the specific reason that you have. And the area is not pretty like it's not a very big section, it's like a really small section. So you try to be very precise, but then at the same time try to elaborate the points which you think needs elaboration from your own point of view. So try to elaborate those points, but then be very concise and be on the point about the language training thing. Yeah. The next part after the language training is the most important part, which is your goal of study, or like the study plan, where you'll be talking about your major, the things you're planning to do and everything. Now this section, like in the personal statement video, I've mentioned this so many times that it has to be personal. You need to build a structure, you need to build a story, right? But in this section, like in the goal plan or like in the study plan, the second section where you'll start writing about your major and the things that you want to do, you have to be very practical and you have to be very authentic. Now being practical means that you have to talk about the major that you're planning to do. No matter you belong to a STEM major like science, technology, engineering or mathematics major, or you belong to a non-STEM major. You are coming to Korea, you are going to study in a university and the major that you are applying for. So you have a plan in your mind, right? If you're coming for a master's degree and if you're going for engineering, for example, if you're going for mechanical engineering, you have certain things in your mind that you want to achieve and things that you want to do. So you need to mention those specific things, the thing that you want to do. So over here you have to be more practical, and by practical I mean that you have to talk about things that you would really be doing here. Now a lot of times people think that if I write something which is out of ordinary or something which is extraordinary, it might sound fake. But the thing is, they really like novel ideas, they really like new ideas, they really like people who are willing to take risk, or people who come up with ideas which are very which are not very common to see. So, and also one thing you need to keep in mind is that when you come here and like for example you have a certain idea in your mind, it's not always going to be the same thing that you'll be doing here, especially in the science field. For example, you might be willing to work in a certain area and you talked about in your study plan, but then when you come here and you join a lab, your interest might change, right? You might change from one specific domain to another domain. It's not like you're changing your major, it's just like you're changing your field of interest, in a way being more specific to the interest that you already have. So that happens, right? So for now, they just want to see how much curious you are about the thing that you are planning to study. They want to see your curiosity level. They want to see how innovative you are. So these are the key points here: innovation, creativity, curiosity. You have to use these keywords and bring out the best out of your study plan. So you need to talk about what you are planning to do and how you can relate it well with your undergraduate major. Now, here's another thing that I want to talk about. There are a lot of people who want to switch majors. Most of the people, they continue their majors, so it's easy for them to, connect their undergraduate and graduate majors, right? But then there are a lot of people who want to switch majors. For example, I switched my major. I did my undergraduate in psychology, and now I will be doing my master's in international trade. So I had a drastic switch in major, right? So that similarly, you can also go for a switch in major, but keep one thing in mind, that if you're switching your major, you have to prove it well in your study plan. And study plan is the section where you can do it. You have to prove them that you are switching major and you have a valid reason for it. And the undergraduate thing that you did and the master's that you are planning for, or the PhD you are planning for, it has a connection. If there's no connection, it's going to give them an idea that you're just coming here for the money and just, you're not serious about it basically, right? So you cannot make them feel about it. So if you're planning to switch majors, focus on this. Try to build a connection. Try to show something which you did, which you experienced, something that you experienced in your undergraduate years that made you apply for this particular master's. Build that connection and you build that bridge. And for other people who are not switching their majors, it's a bit more easy for them because you have already studied the same thing at undergraduate level. You just need to find a more specific interest, right? For example, you did mechanical engineering at the undergraduate level, but then if you are going for a master's, you need to find a very specific thing in the mechanical engineering domain and something that interests you, something that makes you more curious about it and you want to work on. And then you have to talk about it, you have to mention about it. Now, there's another way of writing like that section. For example, if you just write about the introduction of the major that you are planning to do, if you just mention things which are already there on the Google or things which are kind of like theoretical about the major that you are planning to do, I don't think it's a good idea. Instead of focusing on that, that section should be devoted completely to what you are planning to do. So for example, I switched from trading psychology to international trade, right? So my focus was, I switched from psychology to international trade, but my focus was on trading psychology. So I used psychology as a tool to talk about how psychology can be an important tool in the international trade domain. I talked about lawmaking, how psychology can help there. I talked about export and import procedures, how psychology can help there, right? So that is how I built the connection, and that is how I showed my specific interest, that is trading psychology, right? So instead of talking about a complete domain, you have to find a very specific area within that domain that interests you, and then you talk about it. Even trading psychology, for example, in my case, is a pretty big topic, right? So I chose something which is very particular from the trading psychology domain, and I truly focused on that, and I made my study plan out of it. So you have to do the same thing. And when you do it, and by the time you're done writing everything in that section, you'll see that you have a really good study plan prepared. So keep that in mind. And the last section where you have to talk about your future plan, that's again a really important section, because that gives an idea to the counselor of how well versed you are with what you are planning to do. It gives them an idea of how far you have seen yourself with that major or with that career. So in that section, you need to talk about what you are planning to do right now. Obviously, if you're talking about something which is going to happen after 3 years or 4 years, it might change later, depending on your interest, depending on the situation. So they are also aware of it. But for now, they want to know that how sure you are about it, how planned you are about it, and what you're thinking right now. That is what they're focusing on. So they want to see your creativity and curiosity in this aspect as well. So you can talk about your, like, if you want to continue studies, if you're a master's student, if you want to continue to PhD, you can talk about that. Or if you want to work in Korea or some other place, or if you want to come back to your country and work here, you can talk about that as well. It's just that just think how you can utilize your major and education in Korea and then make something out of it. Don't just randomly write. First, think like, okay, I'm studying engineering, I'm studying management. What can I do after it? What I'm planning to, what my goals are, and then just write it down there and then edit it, and you'll get a good last section out of it as well. Again, the future plan part is also not that much. It's like a very short section. So again, make it concise, but try to elaborate the parts which you think would need elaboration. And by the time you're done writing everything, it will be a lot of content. And then again, same as personal statement, editing is the tool to make a successful study plan. Keep editing, start removing things which are unnecessary, start removing a lot of theoretical things and make it more practical, make it more academic, and then you'll get a good study plan out of it, right? And study plans usually would be best if you ask your professors to proofread it for you, because study plans talk about your interest and what you're planning to do, and your professors are usually, obviously they're seniors and they know you, right? They know you, they have seen your academic trajectory, so they would be able to give you good criticism about it. So always take help from them and ask for their suggestions. Yeah, so those were the three things that we talked about, and the 3 sections which you have to cover in the study plan. So if you have any questions, let me know in the comment section after watching the video. I'll be happy to answer. And if you like this video, give it a big fat thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed it yet. Until I see you again, bye bye.